Both came from small towns. Yep. Both won tons of trophies. Yep. Both were called cheats. Yes. Both had a 48-inch vertical leap. Nope. Both have a multi-billion-dollar sports apparel line. Nope. Both on first name basis with famous superheroes. Yes. Both played for billion-dollar sports teams. Yes. Don't take my completely biased and untrustworthy word that Richie's the Michael Jordan of rugby. Here's the great Dan Carter.
Playing alongside Richie McCaw and just seeing the way he went about his preparation, his leadership. He's similar to Michael Jordan, The Last Dance. He was the Michael Jordan where he would just bring the team with him.
The year is 1980, and while Michael Jordan is getting ready to take his talents to North Carolina, a future rugby legend is born in the small town of Kuro, New Zealand. Population, a whopping 312 people. I can hear all you Aussies laughing to yourselves. Definitely more sheep than humans there. They both learnt the value of hard work from an early age. While Jordan was soaring through the air in Chicago, little Richard Hugh McCaw was looking after the farm with his family. Not quite as glamorous, but it built character. Now, when Jordan changed sports history by signing with Nike in 1984, Richie and the All Blacks did the rugby equivalent with Adidas, the haka, Maori culture and brand. The All Blacks wouldn't be who they are today if Richie didn't drag them to the top of Everest alongside his Scottie Pippen, Dan Carter. Richie was also legendary for being the first Pākehā, the first non-Maori or Polynesian to lead the haka since Buck Shelford and Hika Reid made the boys do it properly. Enormous mana. Going back to the late 90s, Jordan is in the midst of his second three-peat with the Bulls in The Last Dance. Teenage Richie is making waves in high school rugby, but here's where the parallel to Jordan's story takes an interesting turn. We all know the tale of MJ getting cut from his high school varsity team, right? Well, Richie one-upped him by not even making the New Zealand secondary schools.
Yes, he does. No, I think it might be McCaw, is it?
But like Jordan, that rejection only fueled McCaw's competitive fire, and probably took it personally. He doubled down on his training, determined to prove the selectors wrong.
That's all I needed. That's all I needed for him to do that, and it became personal with me.
It's that classic underdog story we all love, farm boy, chip on his shoulder, ready to take on the world. Now, while Jordan was winning his 6th NBA title in 1998, Richie was heading to Canterbury for the National Provincial Championship squad. He quickly established himself as a force to be reckoned with at the breakdown, showing flashes of the world-class player he would become. The Y2K bug didn't affect Jordan and McCaw, however MJ hung up his Jordans while Richie was about to explode onto the international rugby scene. In 2001, at the tender age of 20, McCaw made his debut for the All Blacks against Ireland in Dublin.
The outset, terrific tackle from Miller.
Well, it's rather unfortunate because not only did he make the tackle, but he spilled the ball as well against Norm Maxwell.
And how did our guy go? He earned Man of the Match honours.
20 minutes of this half. Need a good one.
McCaw, the man of the match.
It was like when Jordan dropped 63 on Larry Bird and the Celtics in the playoffs. Celtics and Irish. Over the next couple of years, Richie cemented his place as the All Blacks 7. He was part of the team that beat the Wallabies in South Africa in the 2002 Tri-Nations, and he literally beat his first major cheating allegation. Can you imagine Jordan waiting at the free throw line? An opposition fan runs out of nowhere and tackles the referee as he's about to give MJ the ball. That's what happened when this poor bloke took the field after having a few too many castle lagers. Apparently the whole crowd reckoned the All Blacks and Richie were cheating and getting away with it.
Voir un incident pareil, il n'a pas frappé, il s'est contenté de le ceinturer.
The All Blacks won the 2002 and 2003 Tri-Nations tournaments, but then came the 2003 Rugby World Cup. The All Blacks looked like a deer in the headlights. They froze under the white-hot pressure of knockout World Cup rugby. It was their own version of Jordan losing to the Pistons in the late 80s. The team was devastated, and what made it worse, the All Blacks pumped the Wallabies, putting 50 on them a few weeks earlier.
There's Rokataiko, look at the stepping from Major! Oh! And a half-century coming up here!
Enter Graham Henry as the new All Blacks coach in 2004. He was basically the Phil Jackson to Richie's Jordan, but a humongous height difference. Henry knew he needed to reshape the team culture, and he saw McCaw and Tana Umaga as the leaders to make it happen. The first order of business addressing the All Blacks' notorious pisshead culture, a treasured relic from the amateur days. Imagine a multi-million-dollar sports team travels across continents a couple of times a year. They get pumped in South Africa, their biggest rivals. Then they get so drunk some of them had to be carried back to their hotel rooms. I can just imagine Richie channeling his inner Jordan.
That's all I needed. That's all I needed for him to do that, and it became personal with me.
The Steiny kegs were replaced with protein shakes. It wasn't just about cutting out the partying though. Henry, McCaw and senior players like Tana Umaga set about transforming the entire All Blacks ethos. New mantras like better people make better All Blacks and no dickheads became the team's guiding principles. It was all very zen. Phil Jackson's triangle offense met the haka. Sweeping the sheds and cleaning hotel rooms became the norm, but on the field the team transformed too. They swapped out the toffee pops for jockey undies. Blues' favourite son, the enigma Carlos Spencer, was dropped in favour of young Scucks Dan Carter. They also set up the building blocks for what became the benchmark for attacking rugby for years to come. Like the Bulls' triangle offense, they introduced flat back lines. They started playing a wide game with explosive ball running and passing forwards, a novel yet risky concept in international rugby, especially with the backdrop of Johnny Wilkinson and Sir Clive Woodward's Dad's Army team, who just won the 2003 World Cup. But Richie then got his first taste of violence on the field. Again, it was the quote-unquote cheating.
Yeah, well, he is.
You hit me?
Yeah, I am.
Absolutely.
Harley Williams yeah. He's gone. And I tell you what, he won't just get the rest of this game off either.
The 2005 Lions series rolled around, and Richie, Tana and the gang ran circles around the Lions. At the end of 2005, Tana retired from the All Blacks, and at just 25 years old, the worst kept secret in New Zealand rugby was announced. Richie was now leading the most prestigious rugby team in the world. It was like Jordan taking over as the Bulls leader, but with more tribal tattoos and fewer gold chains. The All Blacks took on Richie's personality as a team. They became known for their fitness, precision, and clinical execution. Richie's relentless work ethic set the standard for the entire squad. While Jordan was famous for his 6 AM workouts, Richie was probably up at 5 AM analysing game film and doing extra fitness. The thing with Richie is that he wasn't an athletic player. He just didn't have natural speed or jump out the gym explosiveness like his All Black flanker mates Rodney Sawor-Elo and Jerry Collins. But like Jordan, he worked super hard at all the basic skills and learnt the game so well. Us Kiwis felt Richie knew the rules better than the ref. Everyone outside of New Zealand called it cheating. He was so fit, in the 80th minute of every game he was outrunning everyone.
Oh, okay. What's this?
Can we just listen to it?
Mate,
Let's just listen to me a second.
on both sides. Wait, just 1 second, okay.
Richie's All Blacks won the Tri-Nations in 2006. Things were looking up for Richie and the boys in black, but then came the 2007 Rugby World Cup, and with it, the darkest moment of McCaw's career. The All Blacks, heavy favourites to win the tournament, deer in the headlights again. The shock defeat made everyone question the mental toughness of Richie's boys. Surely Richie took it personally. 4 more years. Chokers. The All Blacks came back strong in 2008, which was great because the knives were out after the 2007 loss. But 2009 Super Rugby and International Rugby was dominated by the great foe, South Africa. New Zealand see the All Blacks as the pioneers and saviours of the game because we take risks and play winning running rugby at the highest level. But the Boks, much like the bad boy Pistons, were hell-bent on running over the top of and bombing the All Blacks into submission. The 3 defeats to the Springboks in New Zealand and in South Africa and Victor Matfield's Super Rugby champion Bulls felt like a turning of the tide. Were the All Blacks good enough to get rid of the Chokers tag to win their home World Cup, something we hadn't done since 1987? How was Richie playing? Still dominant. He was named IRB International Player of the Year in 2009 and 2010. Graham Henry responded to the aerial bombardments by picking Corey Jane and Richard Kahui to defuse them, but almost out of nowhere, Robbie Deans sent out a young, cocky fly, half to destroy Richie, by the name of Quade Cooper.
What happened here? Oh, Quade Cooper following through. Brad Thorne spotted it.
Quade and this iteration of the Wallabies were formidable. In 2010 and 2011, they were the team the All Blacks feared most. The 2011 Rugby World Cup came. The road to victory wasn't smooth. In the lead up to the quarterfinals, Richie had to deal with his own Dennis Rodman in Vegas situation. Two of his teammates, Corey Jane and Israel Dagg, were caught out drinking just 72 hours before the match. I'm sure Richie was ready to go full Jordan mode.
That's all I needed. That's all I needed for him to do that, and it became personal with me.
Luckily, they got their act together and the All Blacks went on to win it all. Now, Jordan had his famous flu game in the 1997 NBA Finals. Richie McCaw basically had a broken foot World Cup in 2011. The guy was literally hopping around on one leg, had no Dan Carter, and still led the All Blacks to World Cup glory. Talk about mind over matter. Rugby fans know the story about Dan Carter going down, then the Beaver Stephen Donald stepping up. Beaver was the Steve Kerr of the All Blacks. He stepped in, took the game-winning shot and nailed it. As McCaw lifted the Webb Ellis Cup, you could hear the entire nation say, "Shucks, that was close as bro." It was Richie's version of Jordan's first NBA title, a monkey off the back, proof that they weren't chokers. Richie, Dan Carter and the gang came back for another run, but the assaults on Richie didn't stop.
Before this is when he went to ground, and that is lucky just to be a yellow.
Oh, dear.
During this period, McCaw's game evolved even further. Along with the title World Cup winners, Richie had another title, the greatest loose forward trio ever. Jerome Kaynor and Kieran Reid. It was like watching Jordan, Pippen and Rodman wreak havoc on both ends of the court. By this point, Richie had well and truly earned his reputation as the player opponents loved to hate. He was constantly accused of cheating at the breakdown, bending the rules to their breaking point. His ability to push the laws of the game to their limit was part of what made him great. It's like how Jordan would subtly push off defenders to create space for his jump shot. As we approached the 2015 Rugby World Cup, there was a sense that we were witnessing the last dance of a legend. Richie had hinted that this would be his final tournament, and he was determined to go out on top. The All Blacks cruised through the pool stages, avenged their 2007 loss to France, closed out the Springboks in the semi, and set up a final against the Wallabies. It was to be McCaw's 148th and final test match, the perfect stage for his last dance. And what a performance it was. In a thrilling test match, the All Blacks won 34-17, becoming the first team to win back-to-back Rugby World Cups. As Richie lifted the trophy for the second time, he cemented his place as the greatest rugby player of all time. McCaw announced his retirement shortly after. Now let's talk numbers for a second, because while rugby and basketball stats don't translate perfectly, the parallels between McCaw and Jordan's dominance are clear. Jordan, 6 NBA titles. McCaw, 2 Rugby World Cups. Jordan, 5 NBA MVPs. McCaw, 3 World Rugby Player of the Year awards. Jordan, 10 scoring titles. McCaw, 148 test caps, most all-time when he retired. Jordan, 72 and 10 record in 1995-96 season, 87.8% win rate. McCaw, 89% win rate as All Blacks captain and an undefeated 2013 season. These numbers tell the story of two athletes who dominated their sports, like few others in history. Their impact goes beyond just the numbers. They became global brands. All Blacks merchandise was flying off shelves worldwide and they sold out stadiums everywhere they went. And the team signed lucrative sponsorship deals with companies like Adidas and AIG. By 2022, the All Blacks brand was valued at over $2 billion. Now, I know some of you are thinking, but what about Jonah Lomu? Wasn't he the one who really put rugby on the global map? But here's the thing, Lomu was a comet. Bright, brilliant, but ultimately short-lived. due to health issues. Richie McCaw was the sun, the constant force around which the entire All Blacks solar system revolved for 15 years. Lomu made rugby exciting. McCaw made the All Blacks near unbeatable. It's like comparing Jordan to Wilt Chamberlain. Wilt put up crazy numbers and captured the public's imagination, but Jordan elevated the entire game of basketball on and off the field and turned the Bulls into a dynasty. Pro rugby's physicality meant he was basically getting into a light car crash every weekend for 6 months straight for 15 years. The guy was tougher than a $2 steak, but more than that, Richie changed what it meant to be an All Black. The embrace of Te Ao Māori leading and standing at the front of the haka. He was the tip of the spear for this multicultural melting pot of a nation who call on the strength of their ancestors each time they take on the world's best. To end the chokers tag, he embraced the emotional and psychological prep required to succeed, something most Kiwi blokes struggle with. So there you have it, folks, a completely biased and one-eyed take. He might not have his own shoe line, a Netflix series about the end of his career, or a movie with the Looney Tunes, but he did lead the All Blacks to unprecedented heights and built a $2 billion rugby juggernaut. From farm boy to flying flanker to commercial pilot, not bad for a kid from small town New Zealand who everyone called a cheat. If you enjoyed this completely biased attempt at trying to convince you Richie McCaw's the Jordan of Rugby, hit the subscribe button and the comments. Even if you think this was stupid, I'm an idiot and I should delete this account, let me know. At least I know you watched till the end. In celebration of Maori Language Week 2024, kia kaha te reo Maori, ake ake ake, thank you for watching.